Worst rapper alive. Oops. Yeah. Big Mac's back on the mic like oops. Back on the horse, still jumping through hoops. Missing Lincoln Pink, I don't lip sync. Just to be clear, choking isn't my kink, but I do it anyway sometimes, I guess. Gotta laugh now, die later in my times of stress. I'm blessed, feeling good, charged up like a Hadouken.
Mesdames et messieurs, garçons et filles, jokers of all ages, welcome to the Worst Wrestling Podcast. You can find us every Saturday at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, exclusively on YouTube and on Spotify. I am your host, Jack Lucene, aka the Fantasy Joker. Hey, you guys have been here before. This is a comedy-fueled, grassroots, fan-driven wrestling podcast, and I would love to be the James Ellsworth of wrestling podcasts, guys. I want to be king of the jobbers, and to do that, I need your support. I need you guys to be my EVPs out here. So please send in your questions. You can send them to the fantasyjoker420 at gmail.com, or you can just hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok at Jack Lucene. Today on the show, first ever, our very first guest, this guy, more in the fantasy football realm, but he does a lot of cross content, so I wanted to get him on the wrestling show because he's been a long-time fan. Welcome to the Worst Wrestling Podcast, the Fantasy. Welcome to the show, Alex.
What up? All right. Yeah. So we mostly do fantasy football stuff, but I've been watching wrestling and been a wrestling nerd long before I ever played fantasy football. And you were talking kind of low. I didn't. What'd you say your name is?
The fantasy.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Man, I am so excited to have you on the show because I think you are very representative, actually, of like a large swath of wrestling fans out there that were super hard into it during the Attitude Era and maybe faded out. And nowadays, wrestling is cool again. The Rock said it, bringing it back. The Rock seems to be bringing back a lot of the old fan base, wanting to check in and see where the product is at these days. And there's a lot of new faces in new places. So I thought it would be really interesting for us to, first of all, go through a quick WrestleMania preview of what is already confirmed for the show. And also just to reminisce together and look back on our top 10 WrestleMania matches. So I have come up with my fave 5. Alex has his favorite 5, and we will be dropping those together on the show to make our top 10 favorite WrestleMania matches. Before we get into the full breakdown here, you mentioned you mostly do fantasy football content, but I know you've got other cross content. So you can talk about the fantasy football stuff too, but I really want to highlight some of the other stuff you do, like the unboxing and shit. So go ahead and highlight all the cool shit that you're doing.
Yeah, fantasy football stuff, just follow everywhere at FF Hustler 420. We got a bunch of leagues that you can get into as of right now. Yeah, we're going to get back in the off season for football. We do the card breaks. If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's like I buy boxes of NFL football cards and we open them on camera, and people like buy the rights to like certain teams, and whatever cards come from them, they get shipped to them. We also do movie reviews and movie recaps. That's been super fun. And yeah, getting in more to the wrestling stuff. So mostly we've done just wrestling watch-alongs. We've also hosted a few like fantasy wrestling drafts where, like, you know, we pick like what you have to have in your stable. We get like 4, 5, 6 guys, and then we do a fantasy draft and we draft our wrestling stable. I want to do another one of those here soon in 2024.
Man, that's interesting because I've tried doing fantasy wrestling before, and I've done variations of it, and they've all kind of fallen by the wayside, unfortunately.
It's just a draft, though. That's all I'm talking. Literally just a draft for fun. We're smoking. We do like a 6-7 round draft, something like that, and you know,
okay.
no league.
Just now, like putting together like a fantasy stable, and it's like it's a fun little exercise. Okay, that makes more sense. Because I know people who have legitimately tried to put together fantasy wrestling, like you get points per chair shots and points per guys going through tables and shit.
See, the most that I've done is with our dynasty leagues. They are WWF themed, where we actually have a wrestler's draft. That wrestler represents your team in the league, and I have kind of a game within the game, like the very first week of the season. If you're the top scoring team that week, you get the Raw championship. If you're the second highest scoring team, you get the SmackDown championship. And every single week, it's a game within a game. Like however that starts, that person's schedule determines, the championship matches that are going. So if you're the Raw champion in week 2, that's a championship matchup. The person playing them could get a chance to steal that belt. And whoever throughout the 14 weeks of the regular season holds the belt the most amount of weeks either goes to the championship, which is week 16, or if you happen to hold both belts the longest, you're just the outright winner. And that has happened a few times.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like that format. I do something not quite the same, but my main league is also wrestling themed. And again, just showing that, your wrestling fandom often will bleed into other things. I think that's the way for a lot of wrestling fans out there. Yeah. But it's wrestling themed also, and the way we do the draft is I simulate a Royal Rumble on WWE 2K. Everybody picks a wrestler. Like I'll post the roster for everyone, and everyone picks their wrestler, and then I simulate the Rumble. I film it. I do the announcing and everything. And you basically, your spot is predicated on like when you get eliminated. So if you're eliminated first, you pick in a 10-man league, you pick last, and then it's all the way to whoever lasts the longest, they get the first pick. So we've had a lot of good years with the Royal Rumble drafts. They've been a lot of fun. Last year was hilarious because there was like 6 picks in the ring, like all at once. And usually it's like you can only have like 6 wrestlers like in a Royal Rumble. Like in the 2K, it only allows for like 6 people at a time.
Okay.
And then like once one gets eliminated, then it'll cue the next one to come out, right? But so it was funny because I think it was like 5 out of 6 was like all of our picks were in at the same time. It was like, oh shit, who's gonna get eliminated here? So there was actually a lot of drama last season. But we'll get into just a quick preview. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. Just breaking down quickly the WrestleMania 40 card as it exists. Right now, the 2 women's championship matches. So the cold one, the cold feud right now is Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. Rhea Ripley is an awesome champion. Becky Lynch won the Elimination Chamber. She is a formidable contender. The feud is what it is. The match is going to be awesome come WrestleMania time. The feud that's awesome, and I don't know if you're not aware of it, you need to check this out. All the stuff that's gone on with Bayley and Damage Control and Io Sky. That's been like some quality ass storytelling. Because Bayley basically started Damage Control. Her faction was, ultimately has been booted out of it now. And then they had this kind of thing where Dakota Kai, who's part of the faction, was going to team with Bayley. And I'm glad they didn't drag it out to WrestleMania. She betrayed her ass right away. So Bayley is on an island. She's on her own. She's got to take on like this whole team of people basically for the championship.
Is she a heel or a baby face? Because I don't like Bayley as a baby face, but as a heel, she's a badass.
She's switching back to baby face, but okay. I will say it's not the hugger babyface because I understand how that perception of a lot of people who still are familiar with Bayley as a babyface are like, yeah, that's when she was doing the hugging bullshit. Right. Now, I don't think she's not going back to that.
Okay.
But at the same time, she's definitely being positioned as the babyface in this feud. But it's because she was betrayed by her heel faction. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They went the betrayal angle. So it's been really good. It's juicy. So definitely I would recommend checking that out. But the real shit, the 2 World Heavyweight Championship matches, you got on the Raw side, Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, who won the men's elimination chamber. And you have on the SmackDown side, obviously, Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. That's the big one. Is Cody going to finish the story? The Rock has returned. He on the recent SmackDown, so I don't know if you saw the one that just passed.
I didn't.
The Rock officially has acknowledged Roman Reigns as head of the table. There's this great moment, dude. The Rock goes to do his catchphrase, if you smell, and the hand. Roman just puts his hand on his arm to stop him right in the middle of it. And, the crowd is eating that shit up. It's just great. He's like, I need something from you. I need something, big bro. You need to acknowledge me. And The Rock just perfect, takes his glasses off, looks him deep into his beady little eyes, and says, I acknowledge you, my family, as tribal chief. It's a great little moment. But the bloodline stands united right now. A lot of people think The Rock is going to betray Roman Reigns. A lot of people think that Seth Rollins, who is offered to fight with Cody Rhodes, is going to betray him. There's a lot of betrayal rumors going on right now for WrestleMania.
I really don't think there's going to be any betrayal out of this. I bet that Cody doesn't win though. Like
Cody's winning. Cody is the 100. I would put all my money on Cody winning. That's for so.
I think it would be such a shock.
Where, like, my wrestling brain, I wish I could turn it off. I know Drew McIntyre is winning that world heavyweight title.
He better not. I really don't like Drew McIntyre. His character just sucks.
I love him, dude. I love him. The stuff he's doing his best work right now. He has embodied Dave Chappelle's hater character from the Haters Ball. He said he went and cut the best promo. He was like, when you got injured, CM Punk, I just want you to know I was praying for that shit. He's been on some shit lately. You gotta watch a lot. Because again, you have this perception sometimes of a character in wrestling of like what they've done in the past. I'm telling you, the stuff Drew McIntyre is doing lately is hilarious. He has this shirt, the kid from The Flash, that meme where he's by the grave. He did the same thing, but it's Drew McIntyre's face now, and he's next to the grave, and it says like CM Punk's WrestleMania dreams.
Oh damn!
Yeah, dude. So Drew's gonna win that title because Seth's had it for a while now, and like they need someone credible to take it from him. And Drew is a credible guy who's doing his best work, and they wanted to re-sign him in real life too. So it all just kind of worked out that like Drew is for sure like that. I would be stunned if he didn't win it. The only way is like if Damian Priest cashes in. That would be the one caveat. I just don't think Seth's walking out there with the belt is what it is.
Yeah.
But so getting back to Rock and Roman Reigns. So now that The Rock, because what happened, the way they went about it was at first everyone fucking lost their minds. And it almost now in hindsight looks genius, but it feels like they tried to pivot. So what happened was originally Cody Rhodes came out and was like, Roman Reigns, I'm going to take everything from you, just not at WrestleMania, even though he just won the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And The Rock comes out and basically was like, thanks, little bro. And so it's supposed to be The Rock versus Roman now at WrestleMania. And people are like, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
And then the next week, The Rock comes out on SmackDown because of the backlash and turns heel and basically tells the crowd to go fuck themselves. And it's like we've gotten full heel Rock promos since then, and it's been magical.
Did you see The Rock on the Pat McAfee show?
No, I didn't actually.
It's worth going to watch because yes, he's behind. It's Dwayne Johnson who's there, but Pat McAfee's a mark. He says it like he's a wrestling mark. So he wanted to know about all that shit. And The Rock's like, oh, You think I care about these Cody crybabies out here? Oh, stealing Cody's opportunity.
No, The Rock as a heel is honestly like, yo. So people, it's funny because like people sometimes will, wrestling fans out there. I don't know if you're familiar with AEW. They are like a secondary company. They're really great. I like them a lot. When people try to compare that to WWE, though, like they just got a brand new signee, like this kid Will Ospreay, very well renowned, awesome wrestler. His debut did like 500,000 views in like 2 days. Bro, The Rock's did like 1 million in fucking like 10 hours. Like, what is night and day? What is like going on?
AEW's still.
He just walked out and cut a promo. He didn't even have his tights on. Just came out in a fancy shirt, cut a promo, 1 million views. That's all it takes.
AEW is still indie compared to the WWE. Like, I mean, it's not indie compared to all these indie companies that are out there. That's for sure. But they still, even though they have a lot of dope talent, I still can't watch it on a normal basis. Like, I don't watch WWE on a normal basis either. But The Rock is something that is like intriguing me to actually like watch. I was going to watch WrestleMania either way. And WrestleMania, I just found out, is coming to Vegas next year. I will be there.
That's awesome. WrestleMania is one of those things that like brings people in anyways, kind of like the Super Bowl, how like even if you don't watch football, you'll watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But The Rock is like doing that for the regular lead up to WrestleMania, which is like something we haven't had in a while, and it's definitely juicy.
Yeah.
But so he's cutting heel promos, Bloodlines united now. And so how is The Rock involved? This is how it's happening. And this is how it's going down. It's great. The Rock and Roman Reigns are going to team up on night 1 because they've split it now. WrestleMania is 2 nights. WrestleMania night 1, the main event is going to be The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. If Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes win, then Cody will get his one-on-one matchup. Bloodline is super banned from WrestleMania by The Rock's word and by Roman's word. If, though, they lose, then it's going to be Bloodline rules for night 2, which is anything goes, basically. The Rock even said, I might sit next to my boy Pat McAfee at announcing and then come smash your fucking head in with a chair. It's great. So I think what's going to happen is they're definitely losing that tag match. It's definitely going to be Bloodline rules for night 2. And we're getting some kind of Avengers shit of like Cody's definitely going to have some kind of backup. I think it's going to be like Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. But the one I would love to see, and I've said this on a couple shows now, I made a short about it also already. I want to see, because he came back last year, Stone Cold Steve Austin. If Stone Cold's glass breaks, just picture that for a second, right? The Bloodline standing tall, they're about to fuck Cody over. You've got Sammy and Jay and like all these dudes just screwing about. Cody's like, oh my God, oh no. And then fucking The Rock smiling, ha 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 ha. Roman smiling, ha ha, and just all you hear, bro. The fucking.
I mean, we've already seen that story play out a few times, and even if you knew it was going to happen, the reaction of the crowd is still like some of the loudest. Like how about when Mankind won the championship for the first time, and it's like the corporation on one side, DX is on the other side, and the glass breaks, and like it's the loudest pop like ever.
Bro, if you did that for Cody, that would literally like cement him. Like, you basically, not only would that be like one of the greatest WrestleMania moments, one of the greatest WrestleMania pops, you cement Cody Rhodes as he's already the biggest baby face in your company. He's the biggest baby face of your company all time now for the rest of his fucking career. You attach that moment in memory of Stone Cold comes out, Avenger style, to fight The Rock, and that's what leads to Cody winning the championship off of Roman and the Bloodline.
How else is Roman Reigns going to lose the title? Like, at this point, it seems like he's going to hold it till he gets to that plateau of like most days ever like held the title. Like as of right now, that's just how it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna have him drop it to Cody regardless. I do think like they built this 2-year story specifically for that. It's gonna happen one of two ways. If I would love for it to be the Stone Cold route, I think most people think it's gonna be the betrayal route. I think that's why people really think that The Rock is gonna betray Roman somehow, and basically The Rock is the one that's gonna cost him the belt. I would rather see my way.
I guess I don't see that happening because I think The Rock is just gonna stay heel. Like the heel Rock, I think he's having way more fun being the heel Rock. And I think like if it's a lot of younger people there, and it's like, you know, not like me necessarily, but let's say someone with a teenager, you know, and they're like 40s or, you know, something like that. Now it's kind of like son against dad.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't know, like Roman's not really the fan favorite, and like him doing anything to go against the fan favorite to turn heel, I just don't think The Rock's going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it because the idea is that it would set up the match for next year,
Right.
Rock versus Roman for
They have to figure out a way to start that somehow because that match is going to happen sometime.
So that's why I think if you did the first way, my way, you can still very much set that up because you can be like, The Rock would be very embarrassed by that happening. If there was anyone that could come out, fuck his day up, and piss him off, it would be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
For sure.
And who would he then take that out on is Roman Reigns. Start little broing Roman Reigns. All you got to do is just have that continue for a couple months.
Right.
Roman is great at if go back and watch, like I said, it was like 40 minutes long, the bloodline shit from the SmackDown.
Yeah.
But Roman, when he comes out, like he's playing it up that he's annoyed about The Rock being a little bit bigger than him. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
mean,
like,
come on, man.
He's like, acknowledge me. And then the crowd does the pop and he goes, that used to be louder.
Hey, I like it.
Definitely, he's hitting those notes. So there's a lot of meat on the bone for this WrestleMania. It's like last year, you had a lot of the same stuff. Like it was still really juicy because you had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens going for the tag titles against the Bloodline, and they were going to win night one, and you had Cody night two, and a lot of people thought that he was going to win last year, and then he didn't. That's why it's like the whole belt. It would actually shock me if they had him go out there and lose 2 years in a row in the main event for WrestleMania. That's like, I don't know how you recover from that as a character going forward.
He's too popular. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like he's too popular. I don't think if he loses is definitely not going to be like the end of him or him like, I don't know, dying as a character. But my two thoughts. One, it's awesome that they have, you know, the tag match going on one night and then the championship on the other night. Like I'm sure that, you know, that tag team match is going to take away like someone's spot to have a match, but give the people what they want. Like give people like a main event both nights that we could be like super, super excited about.
There was a time I think that would have mattered more, and it was when it was only one night. You only had 4 hours to fill.
Right.
2 nights now, it's like you've got 8 hours plus pre-show. Fucking there's people like there's gonna be multiple wrestlers pulling double duty on both WrestleManias. I'm sure
they're gonna love it too because a lot of times you're wrestling back-to-back nights anyways. So
there's still Intercontinental US titles, there's still tag titles, there's still women's tag titles, like there's still a ton of shit.
And Raw and SmackDown variations of a few of those titles, right?
Well, no, the tag titles are unified. They might split those. That could end up being a thing.
Oh yeah, because the Usos had both of them, and it was like, right? Is that how they got?
Day has them.
Okay.
Judgment Day is.
Well, no. I'm just saying the Usos they won them both.
They unified them. Yeah. Okay. So, but then now they're talking about they might split them. So it's like if you do that, well, now you've got 2 tag team matches for championships too. It's like there's still a lot of WrestleMania to fill. I don't think anyone on that roster, and then like now that they've got the NXT kind of developmental brand, like that's going to have its own pay-per-view before WrestleMania. It's like there is a solid 12 hours of quality premium pay-per-view to fill for WrestleMania weekend. I don't think a lot of them are worried about it.
Yeah. And my last thought, so I think we've only seen it happen once, where the night after WrestleMania, the main event was made, and it was The Rock and John Cena. So maybe we do get something like really close, something happening. I mean, it's just that when that happens, I feel like that's got to be marketed for the entire year. Like that's how big like that match is going to be with them somehow.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if they go the betrayal route, they're basically going to say that WrestleMania 41 is going to be Rock versus Roman. Like they're telling you that if they go that route. If they go the something with like a Stone Cold or like, even if they do the Avengers thing, but without Stone Cold, which would be,
I'll jump out of my seat if I hear the glass.
Bro, I am praying to whatever wrestling gods exist that happens. I've been literally in every post I've been doing too. I keep tagging Steve Austin, and I'm like, please see this, please see it, pitch it, have it happen, because that would be fucking amazing.
Yeah, right. Hopefully that's why we haven't seen much from him. He's just been training.
Let's get into our top WrestleMania matches. You can start us off here. Go ahead with your. We're basically going like from 5 to 1. It's not necessarily like in order, but we're starting off with your fifth one going to number 1.
There we go. And for me, this one, I mean, I wasn't even watching wrestling like at the time that that WrestleMania 20 happened, and we got to see Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle. And I mean, Eddie wins it like a month before that from Brock Lesnar, and just like that moment in general, it's probably that moment that just made this WrestleMania moment like that much better, is that he beats Brock. He finally gets the title. You go in there, I mean, everything. You're not even the main event. You have a lot of expectations because he's one of the best wrestlers out there. And I think him and Angle, they just delivered such an insane match. He just from the intros comes out there in the lowrider, so keeping it classic Eddie. And then, I mean, the match was just off the hook. And then you get it where he hits him with the frog splash, but it's like he's cheating and he gets caught cheating, and then just all these other things. It was like he untied his boot, and like when Angle hits him with the ankle lock, the boot comes off, and it's like, it's a crazy ass match, and like Eddie Guerrero's the man. R.I.P.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's one of my favorite matches of all time. Those are two of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Kurt Angle, legitimately my favorite wrestler of all time. What I loved about that match too was the feud leading up. So it's like Eddie coming off the feud with Brock and basically coming off the best promo he had ever done in his entire career. The promo where he talked about how the crowd was the drug that he was on at that point, and that he had all these battles and stuff. Coming off of that to go to Kurt Angle in his absolute fucking peak.
Yeah.
And then they did the thing where Angle tricked him. It was like Paul Heyman or something was like the general manager at the time, tricked Eddie Guerrero into like, it was supposed to be a match between them two, but Eddie Guerrero would be handcuffed. And then Kurt Angle came out and just beat the fuck out of him. Yeah. And it was like, perfect. You set up your WrestleMania match with that. And it was such a hot feud in such a short amount of time. And it was indicative to me at the time of like, you don't always need like these fucking year-long builds to have an amazing WrestleMania build-up feud match. Like they did everything in the span of like you said, it was after No Way Out. They did that all in like a month's time.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. But it's a perfect segue into my number 5. And honestly, this could be much higher on the list. I think obviously it's marred by the tragic history that befell both of the gentlemen involved. WrestleMania 20 for me was like a very like special cathartic moment with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero specifically. So obviously, I was so happy when Eddie Guerrero won the match. You mentioned the part with the boot where he does the old Eddie thing where he goes for the ankle lock and he's cheating because he untied the boot and the boot comes off and he hits him with the small package for the cheap win at fucking WrestleMania. Like, it's just beautiful. But then Chris Benoit, who had been kind of stuck into this triple threat match with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, coming through with the win. And tragic history aside, I'm not going to get into that because it's a comedy podcast, but he was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. And a lot of it was because he looked like my dad. Like, legitimately, like, my dad is a short, stocky, karate fighting Canadian with basically the same hairline and more teeth. Like, he looked a lot. They looked kind of very similar, and it was like if my dad would be a wrestler, like I could see him being very similar. They had kind of similar attitudes and styles and everything. So I very much like saw my father in Chris Benoit, and so obviously, like as a child, idolized Chris Benoit, the wrestler and the character and the persona, right?
Yeah.
And so when he, after the 20-year journey, being the best technical wrestler basically of all time at that point, finally winning the Royal Rumble and doing it in the fashion that he did. I think people forget that he ran the entire Royal Rumble, but he did it from the 2 spot.
Yeah.
And then he got Big Show of all people over the top rope at the end of the Rumble.
Yeah.
And then, kind of the fuckery with Shawn Michaels signing his contract and making it a triple threat for him to still go over and to do it in the manner that he did, where he tapped out Triple H to the crossface, and it was such a crazy fucking match and finish. And then Eddie comes out and they embrace under the confetti, and just that was just such a great WrestleMania moment. And like, still to this day, one of my favorites. Obviously harder to look back on now, given what happened to Eddie Guerrero, very tragically passing away due to heart failure, and then Chris Benoit, obviously, murder, suicide, tragedy, now infamous in true crime lore, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because the one thing I will say, because I have very rarely commented on the situation, is that obviously he was culpable, but the grief that he endured from Eddie Guerrero's death, and I'll never forget, I struggle to even just talk about it, but the promo, if you want to call it that, when they did the memorial the next night on Raw after Eddie passed away, and I had to watch this grown man fucking cry into the camera, like, and remember his best friend's death, like that. He was broken after that, and it was like the drugs, the stress, the decisions, the lifestyle. I don't think people understand that there's never a reason that people do things. Like, motivations and motives, especially for like huge life-altering decisions, whether they are negative or positive, generally come down to never just one thing. It's so rare that it's like just one thing. It is usually a compilation of all kinds of different factors, and it's not to excuse what happened, but there's a way that I can kind of understand it, is what I'm getting at more. And it's, again, very much guilty of what happened. All I want to say ultimately about it is my condolences to the Guerrero family and the Benoit family on both sides. Obviously, everyone related to not just Benoit himself, but his wife, Nancy, and his son, Daniel, that passed away in that tragic incident. So I don't usually talk about it, even in serious formats, because the discussions on it get fucking just like crazy, and I don't want to deal with fucking people. But like, even like you talk, like, I feel bad for like Chris Benoit's father, his son, like the surviving members, like just like all of those people just have my deepest sympathies and condolences. But otherwise, like, I don't really have anything to say about it. But obviously, I also don't want to just like dismiss and pretend like it never happened. Obviously, it's hard to, again, like I said, watch back those great moments that we love as wrestling fans without acknowledging the history behind it. Yeah. So, comedy podcast getting a little fucking serious and heavy here, but again, I just wanted to bring it up. Like, no, I'm not just fucking ignoring it, all right? But at the same time, like, yeah, you can separate the two, you know? You can acknowledge that, yes, he had these moments, but also, yes, they are marred. When people push back are like, oh, well, why doesn't WWE play that? I'm like, go fuck yourself. You know exactly why. I hate when people ask questions they know the fucking answer to.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyways, after all of that, let's just kick it on to your number 4.
All right. So, 2 ultimate, just iconic characters in wrestling. Number 1, The Rock. Number 2, Hollywood Hogan. So this was after the big invasion. So the WrestleMania 20 in 2004. And then this was WrestleMania 18 in 2002. And during the whole invasion, Scott Hall and Stone Cold got teamed up for this, and not teamed up, but they were they had a match, and then The Rock and Hollywood Hogan. That ended up being, the bigger match of the two because Hogan's just bigger. Scott Hall was all fucked up. Like at that time, wasn't really a good match when it was all said and done. But The Rock Hogan, I feel like lived up to every piece of the expectations of that match. And
I'm going to say one thing. Stone Cold and Razor had the better match, technically speaking. Even though Razor was definitely dragging ass in that era, like Stone Cold dragged the better technical match out of him. It's just nobody gave a shit. Rock and Hogan fucking stood there for like 5 minutes. Literally just stood there staring at each other. And it was just the crowd did all the work because, they were ultimately they were the 2 bigger personas and characters because as much as Stone Cold was always, I think, more popular, he was also very much more workman-like, more blue-collar, more relatable. I think that's what made him more popular. That and the fact that he was beating the shit out of his boss. That's something everybody loved. And drinking beers, like, again, very relatable, but that's not a character. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you see Stone Cold, you're like, I can picture myself having a beer with that guy. When you see The Rock, though, you're like, that's a larger than life character. I almost don't believe that that's a real person. You know what I'm saying? And Hogan is the same way. As much as like Scott Hall is like, I'm the bad guy, you can almost like be like, okay, there's a lot of relatable things about Scott Hall. Again, very technical and workmanlike. Not like Hogan, who's very pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, and Hogan and Scott Hall, like their wrestling ability, I don't even think it's close. Like, I mean, Hulk Hogan's just not known as like a good wrestler. Like he's a larger than life character.
Yeah, every time you say that, people will be like, "Oh, remember in Japan though? Okay, fuck you. Okay, he had 5 like his whole fucking 5 matches in Japan." Great. I'm glad he was fucking awesome in matches nobody gave a shit about.
And those matches in Japan made him so delusional that he said, compared to the average human being, he said this on Joe Rogan, average human being gets 365 days in a year, right? Every human being, except Hulk Hogan, because he went to Japan so much that like he would be going back and forth, and that gave him like extra days of life. He says so. He said Hulk Hogan lived about 400 days a year, brother, because of all the going back and forth to Japan.
I do kind of get what he's saying. That's the funny part of like, because like the time difference of like you're going back. It's like you're not actually gaining the time. It's funny to count that and be like, I was living extra.
That's how ridiculous Hulk Hogan is. But just going back to the match, I don't think the match itself was the best technical wrestling or anything like that. I'm just talking about the moment. The Rock and Hollywood Hogan, like the moment was so big that they stood in the middle of the ring and everybody lost their shit. They didn't have to do anything. Like you said, they're literally standing there at a face-off. And now we see other people try to do that. We see it happen a lot. I don't think anybody could do it as good as those two did, because it did seem like it lasted forever, where they were just standing there doing nothing because the crowd was just going so insane. It was like they were really holding the crowd, just like
it was
just
three
hostage.
things that I think really give more credence to that moment specifically than almost any other in wrestling history. People forget that the build for that was hilariously just like overbooked and mismanaged, and it was like so at that point in time, basically, you know, in kayfabe, Ric Flair had basically taken over the WWE because he was like he had managed to make himself like the commissioner forever or something, and then Vince was so mad about it that he decided that he was going to destroy his own company by bringing in the NWO was his big plan. So he brings in NWO, and they immediately attack the two biggest stars on the roster, Austin and Rock, which is what leads to the split off WrestleMania matches. So that's like the build. So going into the match, people were very much on the side that Rock was the babyface and Hogan was the heel.
Yeah.
In the match itself, though, once people were forced to make that decision, they started cheering for Hogan. And they had the double turn in the match, and credit to Rock and Hogan. And this is one thing that I will say that almost doesn't happen in wrestling enough these days, because sometimes it's constraints, I think, or, you know, they don't have the same liberties they had back then. But
you don't have any Rocks or Hogans right now who you would.
But I mean, in the sense of like, okay, here's the perfect example though, is of what I'm talking about. They just had an Elimination Chamber. Tiffany Stratton was a competitor in the match, and she's a heel. But people were cheering her, and she was basically like getting that face push. And they didn't go with it. You know what I mean? She just kept doing what she's supposed to do. And that's a thing of like, you're never going to get another Rock if you don't let the characters adapt in the moment. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Because in that moment, Hulk and The Rock went with the double turn. Rock realizing, oh, I'm actually the heel right now. Like, played in it. Rock historically has been great at having that creative power to do so, but also understanding when he needs to turn on more of the heel stuff as opposed to the babyface stuff. And he's able like most to of the time he wants.
You could tell. I mean, you could tell me your thoughts on it, but I feel like getting too like, I don't know. I guess The Rock, it was his wrestling, but it was his promo work that really made it to where, like, same with Stone Cold. It was like their promo work was so good that the crowd reactions warranted them hitting the superstar status. John Cena, same thing. I mean, Cody's promos haven't necessarily been like amazing. I mean, they're good, but I don't know. I mean, Seth Rollins, I think, would be one of those ones that at least is reaching that kind of level because of a lot of the promo work. Got to be good inside the ring either way. Like, I'm not taking
there was a long time. So this is kind of where I'm getting at of like, unfortunately, for a long time, WWE was plagued by script writers.
For sure.
And
it still is, for sure.
Kind of, but it is getting away from that now. And I think that's why we're seeing better stuff come out again, is they're kind of getting away from the script writers. They're going back to that old style of like, we're giving you bullet points and you deliver it how you see fit within your character and kind of make decisions out there. And again, a lot of that is because, you know, obviously Triple H being a mainstay of the Attitude Era, now being in the main creative position, has a lot to do with that. On the back end, again, not wanting to get into all the legal crazy shit, but Vince McMahon with the fucking all his cases and shit, he's out, and it's Triple H basically running the day-to-day, especially for the creative. And so a lot of that of like all the script is like they're letting the wrestlers do more and kind of explore their characters more too is great.
Well, and the thing that's like really cool that I don't know if a lot of people even know, but until like all the way pretty much until Dusty Rhodes' passing, I mean, like, you know, in the last couple years, he was working with all the NXT people, you know, the Baileys of the world, the Charlottes of the world, the Seth Rollinses of the world, the Becky Lynches of the world. And like having Dusty teach you how to like cut promos, like, they better give these guys some freedom right now. Like now we're talking about just being in the WWE system, you know, like those couple people I mentioned, 10 years plus, like at this point, if you don't trust them like at all to like do their shit right now, might as well just cut them. So I'm glad that
some guys, it's like, and you know, I think one that's really underrated. So Roman Reigns is one that his promo game is actually really underrated. I love a guy that can deliver, like, not every promo has to be like upbeat, choppy shit. Like, I kind of love like a slow beat promo when you can hit the notes right. Like I said, watch back this past SmackDown and you'll kind of see what I mean when he's doing his promo stuff as compared to like what The Rock does. Like, The Rock is still very like pomp and circumstance, but Roman kind of, again, almost aggressively annoyed, very much like hits his notes really well. For my number 4, we'll actually get into some tag team action. This is basically the highlight that plays now at the beginning of every showrunner in the history of wrestling. There's like 2 really highlighting moments in the history of wrestling. The first one did not happen at WrestleMania. It was when Mankind went off the Hell in a Cell. That gets played just fucking till the end of time. But the other one did happen at WrestleMania. It was at WrestleMania 17 in probably the greatest tag team championship match of all time. It was the triple threat match, TLC, for the tag team titles. Dudley boys, Hardy boys, Edge and Christian. Doesn't get any better than that. Not only was the match totally fucking insane, then you had the moment where, so Jeff Hardy is like on the ladder and he's trying to grab the belts. And then I think it was Devon Dudley, it's Bubba grabs the ladder from under him and starts pulling it back. And he's still got his legs wrapped and it's just pulling him back. And then he lets go with his legs. And he starts swinging forward and Edge comes off the opposite ladder, hits him with a spear from basically like 17 feet above the ring, and they go down together. That moment lives in infamy. They have angles of it, the way it's shot, where they had like where the championship was, and it's shot down so you can see just all the way that they fell. Dude,
Jeff Hardy is a fucking G. Like, he's done some of the craziest shit, like to inflict pain onto people. This one though, like where he got the pain inflicted onto him, I mean, the amount of holy shit moments in that match, like, I don't even know if we could count it. Like, we might need to go back and watch that match again all the way through just to count the holy shit moments, because it seems like it's happening every second, and that for sure was like the biggest one.
No, it's only it's crazy too, because it's like that wasn't even the biggest bump of the match.
No.
There was one that was like way worse. I think it was like Bubba and Matt Hardy actually were like on a ladder together, and they get pushed off through the quadruple tables outside.
Yeah.
Like, dude, there's so many. That was a fucking car wreck of a match. It was incredible.
I know, Jeff.
They've been trying to like recreate basically like great TLC matches like that ever since then.
Yeah, and it shouldn't even try. It shouldn't even try. Like, nobody should like inflict that much pain on themselves.
No, that was brutal. It's funny because it's like, it is like, I don't want to see wrestlers do that anymore, knowing what I know now. Like, as a kid, you could like mentally separate yourself, but now as a like an adult man, I'm like, holy fuck, that would hurt so much.
Anybody who says that wrestling's fake, I just want to sit through this match with them and just see what they say. because like it doesn't matter if it's scripted or not. When you fall 20 feet from like the top of a ladder onto a quadruple table, there's no way in hell to fake any part of that.
So that's actually a perfect example and analogy that I have always used to non-wrestling fans or casuals that kind of don't get it. They're like, how can you enjoy a sport that's fake? And I'm like, it's not fake, it's scripted. There's a difference. It's like going to the theater and watching the stuntman jump off the roof of the building and land on the stage. Like, you know that hurt. The stuntman didn't fucking like,
or it's literally like any TV show
or anything, you know what I mean? Like
any TV show that you watch on cable, that's scripted. It's fake.
Yeah. It's like fake and scripted is two very different things to me. When you say fake, it's like, okay, fake is like you used effects, you used CGI, you used a body double, like a dummy or something. Like there was something that would. This is not fake. This is fucking brutal, man. Like I always tell people, like, stand on your couch, jump off onto the floor, and like land on your on an elbow. Just do an elbow to the floor, flat on the floor. Tell me how your body feels after. Do it.
And you can even elbow a pillow. Just elbow a pillow and pretend that that's the person, and let's see how the rest of your body feels after that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, your hip is going to be flaring up and fucking after two of them. But yeah, I always explain to people, like, it's what I call it is athletic theater, and it's called taking a bump for a reason, because it's like I pick you up and I drop you and you fall with style. You're Buzz Lightyear in this situation.
Yeah, and a normal person, if you're not trained, you're probably going to get a fucking concussion because you're not going to know how to tuck your neck or anything like that and all the other random shit. But like, yeah, it's crazy how much slack these wrestlers get when, I mean, they're amazing athletes for one. Like, you have to train. You're on the road like shit 4 or 5 days, like out of the week, going to different cities, different towns, all that shit. I mean, yeah, maybe it's a little bit better than it was before, where these guys were literally on the road 300 out of 365 days out of the year, and they're all in fucking rental cars, 5 in a car because they have to pay for it themselves.
Do I hear something crazy I didn't really even realize? You know who else has to be on the road? The writers.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So like the writing staff, a lot of the production crew, it's like they are also, you don't think about like those guys, but it's like they're also on the road 300 days a year. It doesn't fucking
that whole
wrestling doesn't stop. There's no off season.
Do people forget that they have people that go to every show and set up the Raw set, the SmackDown set? Like, it's not just there.
I know. Crazy, right?
I think people forget about that too. Like, this is, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that are going on the road fucking producing these
production crew. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The when you actually get into like the mechanics of it, start to think about it, you're like, damn. Let's get into your number 3.
Okay, I'm going to do these ones in chronological order. I'm super biased on my WrestleMania moments because these are WrestleMania moments that were hitting when I was like getting into wrestling and just seeing the progress of, like, I think who most people would say is the greatest wrestling character of all time, at least like the peaks of how high his peak really was. And that's Stone Cold Steve Austin, the guy who took WWF from, like, let's say they weren't the Carnival show, but they definitely weren't all over TV Guide and Sports Center and all that kind of shit until Stone Cold became Stone Cold. Now, before he became this ultimate superstar, him and Bret Hart had a feud. WrestleMania 13. That's going to be the first match that I bring up. And it was an I Quit match, or a submission match. And so you have to tap, like you have to quit. And that's what they kept saying like the whole time. Austin will never quit. And Stone Cold is not known for any kind of like being a submission wrestler. Like, he's a big brawler, at this point, even though he was a technical wrestler, in the past. This match, like, they built it up for a while. Like, they had a match at Survivor Series in 96. And, he screwed Bret in the Royal Rumble, like, I don't know how Stone Cold gets eliminated from the Royal Rumble. And there was no ref, like, over it's 97. So maybe they just couldn't, they weren't having multiple refs, I guess, at that point or something. He gets eliminated, comes back in. Bret thinks that he won. Stone Cold eliminates Bret. And oh yeah, this was like a really bad year for Bret in as far as wrestling goes. And it all started with getting screwed over at the Royal Rumble. And this match, though, like this, Stone Cold had already been put on the map with the King of the Ring, but this was one of those matches that really elevated him to like superstar status, like really getting there.
Yeah, I mean, Stone Cold, I remember when I was a kid and people would say to me, "Oh, wrestling's gay. You watch wrestling? Wrestling's gay." I'd be like, "Stone Cold?" They're like, "Oh, not him." Not him. He's cool. I'm like, "Oh yeah, he is cool, isn't he? Shut the fuck up." All right.
And the blood, that was the big thing, because like, you know, they're really, it's not that they were, you know, they're trying to get away from getting color all the time, you know, like, I mean, that was like a Ric Flair like super thing, trying to get color every single match. And so I know that was one of those ones that like Bret Hart had to make the call, you know, on it, because like Stone Cold was still he was still too much in the rise to where he couldn't make that call about it. And like, that's the visual that everybody remembers. That's the visual that's on t-shirts, is after he starts getting the color, Bret Hart puts him in the sharpshooter and like he pushes up off the mat. And it's just this crazy visual of blood coming down his face and all over his teeth. And infamous moment.
That was literally like, he was already pretty much a made man at that point, but that was kind of like the cream on top, the little cherry that really just like cemented his legacy going forward forever as like the guy. My number 3 was Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle. So I really wanted to go with Kurt Angle and Eddie also, but first of all, I was glad when you sent in your list and you had it, because I was like, oh, well, I've got like, you know, the end of that. But to me, when I think of the best Kurt Angle WrestleMania match, it was when he went against HBK, because it was very much just like, again, the build was a lot of Kurt Angle builds for WrestleManias were short, but were awesome.
Yeah.
It didn't take long. It was basically just, I'm better than you. It's that simple. I'm better than you. And they had that match, and honestly, it was just a masterclass of wrestling. And Kurt Angle went over, which I thought was, you know, really incredible at that point in time, because Shawn Michaels historically has been kind of a bitch about doing that kind of thing. And you know, like when they made him have the match with Hogan, and they're like, we need Hogan to go over. They call it Shawn Michaels selling now, because he acted like a fucking clown and sold like an asshole for the entire match.
Yeah.
So it's like, he's been known to be pouty when he doesn't get it his way, but he put Kurt Angle over.
He had to respect the guy he was putting over, right?
Yeah. And he respected the fuck out of Kurt Angle, which I appreciated that. So he put Kurt Angle over like $1 million, and that match was fucking like literally one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. So that was my number 3. I think that leads into your number 2.
Yeah. This one was a big one at the time, because we're talking Iron Mike Tyson, we're talking HBK, we're talking Stone Cold. I mean, the build for this, for Stone Cold, was King of the Ring. You know, like that was the start and the build, and him going through the whole neck because of Owen Hart, you know, dropping him on his head. It was a really long build toward this moment. And Shawn Michaels is all fucked up. His back is all fucked up. Like, who knows how he even got through this match to begin with. Mike Tyson, who I actually met a couple weeks ago at an event here in Vegas.
That's crazy.
Full circle for sure. He'd already aligned with DX, and like everything is just going against Austin, because he's like, this is probably the biggest moment, I would say, in like Attitude Era history. just Stone Cold actually winning the championship. This 2-year, I mean, and this is only 2 years in the WWF. For him, it's like his entire life is leading up to like this moment. And like the match isn't even, like that amazing necessarily because Shawn Michaels all fucked up and his back is fucked up and he's still doing the flips into the turnbuckle, and all kinds of shit. They do what they always do in these type of matchups. They take it outside the ring, and they go through the crowd and all that. And that's always getting people riled up. And then you actually see the guys getting dropped on cement and all that. And it's crazy, what they were doing to like try to build a super epic moment. And like when Austin, like he stops the super kick when Shawn's about to hit him with the super kick, spins him around, hits him with the stunner, and Mike Tyson does the super fast count. And Jim Ross, Stone Cold.
That one is burned into my memory too. Like that was like one of my earliest wrestling memories was like Stone Cold winning the title. Because I was like 7 years old, and it was like I had two guys in wrestling, and it was Austin and The Rock. It was them two.
Yeah.
So that one absolutely burned into my mind. And Shawn Michaels, just shout out to him. You mentioned with a broken back, still pulling off the moment. With the spinning, like the blocked super kick. Like I still to this day think of like it was so perfect the way that he like spun around and sold that stunner.
Before you get into your next one, this is a real question. I know there's a lot of debates about this. Shawn Michaels first half versus Shawn Michaels second half.
Oh, second half easily for me.
I mean, that's what's crazy, right? Is like it went so much longer. And so many more big moments.
Yeah, no, I as much as I appreciate Shawn Michaels' early career, and he was fantastic, and like, I didn't get to obviously enjoy a lot of his work with the Rockers. Like I was there for more of like the late era Shawn Michaels, like I lost my smile bullshit. So it's like, yeah, he had the amazing Hell in a Cell with Taker, and he had some amazing matches. But like he also just was like never my guy. It was like he was kind of like on his way out. So I was like, I was fine with Stone Cold taking over and him kind of stepping away. I was like, that's fine. He's kind of like the old guard anyway. Yeah. And I remember when he came back and him and Triple H had that fucking crazy feud that led to like the last man standing at SummerSlam. Yeah. That was some crazy shit. Yeah. And then he wins the title in the first Elimination Chamber. That was intense.
Yeah.
And then there's so many more moments. I mentioned Kurt Angle and HBK at WrestleMania, but what I was about to say, my number 2, and honestly could easily be number 1 on this list. It's considered by many to be the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. Definitely the greatest WrestleMania feud of all time. HBK and Taker, the first one.
That's big time.
That was honestly, so Taker, I remember too being one of my favorites and going through the evolution of I watched him go from Dead Man to Biker back to Dead Man. Yeah. And I was so happy when he went back to Dead Man. Yeah. The second, you talk about the first iteration for Shawn Michaels and the second being better. The second iteration of Undertaker Dead Man was a million times better than the first. Yeah. It was literally like the legend really became the legend in that second run.
Mm-hmm.
Just fucking banger after banger after banger. Every fucking thing Undertaker did in that era was just incredible. Bro, Teddy Long, all he had to do was come out and say, "Tonight, player, you're going one-on-one with the Undertaker." And just watching the fucking person in the ring get to react, I'm like, oh, the Undertaker, oh. But Shawn Michaels, credit to him, not scared. And they did the whole fucking light versus dark. He comes out in the all white and the fucking Taker's in the all black. Dude, that first match, just incredible. I loved the second one, career versus streak. That was like, honestly, that was really good too. But I think I like the first one just a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, and it was the first one that they had. So
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
that was a
because
bit more.
you really thought honestly, they're both. To me, they're like together in my mind. But like, if I have to pick one, if I'm gonna watch one, usually I'll watch the first one.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man! Just two guys who just ultimately represent like WrestleMania. Like I don't even know how many WrestleMania matches they have combined between the two, but
Well, fuck,
insane.
Taker did. That was like 4 in a row right there that he did. Of like, he did HBK back to back, and then he did Triple H back to back. And it was supposed to be end of an era, and then he just kept fucking doing them.
Yeah, and what's his record even at? I mean, I know it's somewhere in the 20s, and he's only
Taker,
lost.
it ended at 21-1. It was Brock Lesnar ended it
Yeah.
at WrestleMania 30, actually, which a little teaser to my number one.
Yeah.
But before we get to mine, let's
Which
get
was
to your number one.
My number one, and this is just because I went in chronological order with the Austin matches, but just like you said, your two favorite guys were The Rock and Stone Cold, like same for me. When in '99, when both of them really just like plateaued, or not plateaued, but just really like hit the ultimate like peak, and just like kept peaking, I would say was '99, and I was 13 when that was going on.
Yeah.
So like I was just fully ingrained in all of this. And WrestleMania 15, I remember that was the first one that I actually like. I'd seen other pay-per-views going over to people's houses and stuff. Like this one, we actually like hustled up money so we could like buy this ourselves to watch it. This is back when I think the pay-per-views were maybe $35, $40. I can't remember how much they were.
$40-$50. I used to make my dad get them on like the good ones, where it was like, to me, everyone was a good one, but I was like, look, we have he wasn't going to shell out for a fucking Backlash because I wanted to watch one of the matches on the card. If it was like, but he would shell out for like the main 4 usually. So SummerSlam, Survivor Series, WrestleMania, and Royal Rumble, pretty locked up in my house. My dad was like a really big wrestling fan. He was actually the one that got me into it. Even though he wasn't like a super diehard or anything, he just loved it. I don't know why. And Stone Cold was very much like his guy. He vibed with Stone Cold so hard. Actually, my dad met Stone Cold one time because my dad used to work at Toronto airport.
Okay.
And he met some of the wrestlers when they came through. I think he met Taker, Edge, and he actually got to go have a beer with Austin at the airport bar. And he said that it was funny because like everybody kept flipping him off because it's like people would walk by and be like, Stone Cold, yeah, Stone Cold.
How cool is that? That Stone Cold to be the cool guy. All you have to do is flip them off back, and then they flipped us off.
Yeah,
I'd be so stoked about that, man. That's fucking awesome.
But
that's
yeah, Rock Austin. I mean,
I'd say the lame part about it.
I don't really remember the first one the way that I remember the one that I hate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The one that's burned into my memory is the one when Vince McMahon comes out at the end and Austin turns heel, makes his stupid deal with Vince.
Yeah.
That I hated that.
I think everybody
it's one of the most hated moments I think of all time.
Yeah.
But there was like the first match. I think it was Stone Cold won because that was like the thing was like Rock had done everything except beat Stone Cold at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And they had the second one or something.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I only vaguely remember the first one, to be honest.
The first one was the best one out of all of them. I mean, to me, it was, the only lame part about it, and Stone Cold talks about this later on podcast, because I was always wondering why he comes out in a t-shirt instead of his leather vest, and he had forgotten it in like a hotel or like something like that, or his bag got stolen or something of that nature. And he always brings that up, that's why he had this t-shirt on instead of the leather vest. But either way, that aside, they did what all these matchups do, and then they made their way through the crowd and everything. And it was Vince put himself, like, before this match happens, Vince put himself in as the special guest referee.
Uh,
the match.
Yeah,
But
I hated that era of Vince having to put himself in every fucking big match.
well, hold on, but this is where the twist came, because as he's coming out there, he's got his music, blaring. He comes out there, and you think it's going to be The Rock or Stone Cold's music, but it's not. It's HBK coming down, and he's the commissioner still. And he said, "Vin Man, the only one who can make changes to the referee at a WrestleMania main event is HBK, the Heartbreak Kid, the commissioner." And so he kicks him out of there, so he can't be the referee. So it's, I don't know, it's Earl Hebner or something. Again, we get some kind of chair shot to the referee, and I'm pretty sure it's The Rock putting Hebner in front of Stone Cold, and then boom with the chair shot.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that one, because it's definitely like I super remember the one, like I said, the one that I hate, but I don't. That one's really fuzzy in my mind, so I'm gonna go back and watch that, I think, after this.
Yeah. Mankind actually comes out as the special guest referee, because Mankind was supposed to be the special guest referee, but they beat the shit out of him, and then that's why Vince McMahon inserted himself as the special guest referee. Like, that's the whole thing of what happened. So Mankind comes back out, and he's fucking struggling. He's got his hand all on his ribs and shit.
But it's like corporate rock. Is that what I'm thinking of? Like when,
yeah,
the beer angle, right, where he sprays the wall with the beer truck.
Yeah, this is still corporate rock, because it was after he loses to Austin. It was after that where corporate rock finally turned into the people's champ instead of the corporate champ.
All right. Yes. Now,
so it was still ultimate heel. It was ultimate heel Rock at this point, and he's still Vince McMahon's puppet.
Yeah.
At this point,
that's very, like, when I first started watching wrestling was like in that era right there.
Oh yeah.
1996.
Hell yeah. And so Mankind's out there now. I'm pretty sure Stone Cold hits him with McMahon with a chair or something. But then finally it's a crazy finish the way that they have it, because it's like Stone Cold's about to hit The Rock with the stunner, but The Rock blocks it because he knows him, about to throw him in the rock bottom, but then Stone Cold blocks it and then turns him around, then boom, hits him with the stunner, and The Rock sells it like no other, like he always does. And Mankind hits it with a normal 1, 2, 3. The crowd's going crazy, and Vince McMahon's there like, and JR again, Stone Cold, the rattlesnake rules again.
No, now you're triggering the memories, and they're coming back to me. All right.
It's an epic moment. Epic moment.
Speaking of epic moments, I'm going to lay down my number one here. And I think for me, the reason it's become my number one is because there's nothing from the new school. So basically, after the Rock and Austin era, so like post 2005, and especially when you talk about like the 2010s era, nothing has ever come close to moving me emotionally the way that Daniel Bryan did when the Yes Movement took over WrestleMania 30. Yeah. And it was crazy because people don't forget, but people almost don't realize that was the same pay-per-view where they ended Taker's streak.
Yeah.
The only way you could have people leave happy from a pay-per-view where a WrestleMania where Undertaker ended his fucking streak was Daniel Bryan was the original guy that finished his story. So, the whole thing of, and I loved that they did that. He had to come out and have the first match with Triple H. They do the whole monster tribute package. It's fucking beautiful. He's going to win the match, but it's a brutal fucking match anyways. Triple H like fucks him up for most of the match. He gets the win, but then even better, Triple H fucks him up after the match. Starts fucking busting him up on the post with the chair, fucking his shoulder up. Just everything is like against this man. He comes out with one arm for the main event, basically, in the triple threat against fucking Randy Orton and Batista. And man, just the whole match, and then like the way they did the fucking powerbomb RKO combo through the announce table, took his ass out on the stretcher. He comes back in. Triple H is trying to interfere. That doesn't even work. Just like everything was such a build up and cathartic release. And when he won it, man, I still like on days where I'm just like not feeling the greatest, I will just watch the like Daniel Bryan's WrestleMania story, basically, of like I said, the pre-match with the monster video. You watch the monster video, the Triple H match, and the triple threat in a row. It's like a movie. It's like an hour and a half, basically. It's like a perfect wrestling movie. So again, it's the only thing that even made me feel anything close to like those days of Rock and Austin and Kurt Angle and Taker and Kurt and like Kurt was the other one for me. It was like it really went from like Rock Austin to Kurt Angle to Daniel Bryan, and to nowadays for me it's Gunther. So no Gunther, go check that guy out because he is spectacular. Just watching this man chop people is like the greatest thing ever.
Daniel Bryan's the man. That was a super epic moment for him for sure.
And he's only gotten better with time too. Like his stuff in AEW, like I know you don't watch a lot of that, but you know, if you're just gonna watch, I love AEW of like you don't need to know the story really. If you just want to watch like really good quality, like technical wrestling, like you could just throw on, you know, any Bryan Danielson match that he's done with anyone since he's been there. But specifically like Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega was like a really great match. But like again, that's like a whole nother level. The WrestleMania stuff will never be replicated. They literally like now it's like that's like the new thing of like, can we turn someone into a Daniel Bryan, like the character that the company doesn't want to embrace that we really fucking love, that we're gonna push in spite of what they want, like that they've tried to replicate it since, and again, just it's one of those things that you'll never be able to really catch that lightning in the bottle in the same way.
And we're gonna do a Revolution watch party tonight because I don't watch much I don't watch much AEW, but you know, for the big time pay-per-views, I do have one of the sponsors of our podcast is a streaming service where you get access to all the pay-per-views and you know all that kind of stuff, and so we always watch it on Rumble, where we'll be on there and like you know we'll have the pay-per-view like just right there on the stream.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're doing anything tonight, but if you want to hop on,
that sounds awesome. I might actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this show up for right now, though. You know, one more time, just tell everyone where we can find like all the cool shit that you do.
At FF Hustler 420 or go to fantasyfootballhustler.com and that has the links to everywhere that you can find me. I'm on Rumble now. If you guys don't know about that, it's another streaming app. It's a little bit friendlier than YouTube. You know, YouTube hates on the weed stuff a lot. They hate on, you know, just like playing music and things like that. And like, so on Rumble, they're a little bit more lenient with that kind of stuff. So we're literally going to be streaming Revolution over there tonight. And it's 420 Crew Sports on Revolution on Rumble.
Hell yeah. So make sure you guys go check that out. And as always, I appreciate you guys making it this far into the show. Normally we would do the fan questions, but obviously we were doing the top 10. So a little bit different format, but the fan questions will be back next week. So make sure that you send those in. You can hit me up again at Jack Lusney, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, or if you want to go more low key, send those questions in to the fantasyjoker420@gmail.com. And I will catch all you guys on the flip side.
My positive contact results in affirmative impact. Never vulgarize on raps. I'm never primitive, but cannibalistic, vicious characteristics, hereditary potency, empathetic genes, yo. Aim at the HMCs at extraordinary speed. Seven of me is like slipping in razor blades and grease in your bare feet. I see your fucking colleagues misprise you very much to your dismay. So today, I can say you won't be running away. Hold your tail between your legs. Never to advocate when you feel below stakes. I'll take a hacksaw to you cockeyed, mumble rap, slack jaws. Leave you shredded on the side like some coleslaw. The double time with that clothesline from hell like Bradshaw. I'm toxic like septic shock.